What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video. Congratulations, we have made it through the 5th season. We are halfway done with this show. I cannot believe we're only halfway done with this show. So I have just finished the season finale, Vessels. So of course, now we're gonna take a hot second to just look back on season 5 as a whole and talk about the season as a whole entity instead of one at a time, like I have done for every other season. So the way that we're going to talk about this is I'm going to talk about negative then positive, because you always like to end on positives, right? So I'll talk about maybe things I didn't like about this season, things I liked about this season, and I'll talk about least favorite characters, least favorite episodes, and then I'll give a final grade and kind of how it ranks in with the other seasons. So I guess we should start off with, I want to say this just as a general whole, I freaking love this season as a whole. I really did. It was great. Absolutely great. But that doesn't mean there were things that I didn't like about it. So we're going to talk about those first, get those out of the way, and get more on a positive note. The first thing I can think of I didn't like about this season was the Senator storyline. I thought it was weird. I thought it came out of the blue, out of nowhere, especially for Jonathan. Like, I understand with Lex, because he obviously in the future he becomes president, so obviously he has political aspirations, so it makes sense that he would want to start running. What doesn't make sense is that Jonathan would, because he has shown no interest in politics. And the other thing, like, I just don't know if he would be a good senator to begin with. I think Martha, towards the end of the season, I was like, you know what? Martha would make a much better senator than her husband. Like, let's be honest. And, you know, she's kicking ass at the end of the season, doing her job. And I thought that was great for her. It gave her something to do than just be, you know, Clark's mom and sit around the farm and mourning her husband's death. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But, like, I don't understand, like, Jonathan just doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would want to run for office and be senator. And on top of that, it just never made sense to me after years and years and years of having to hide Clark's secret that he would want to be put in the public eye like that. Like, to me, that makes zero sense. This whole show has been about keeping Clark's secret, keeping him out of the limelight, laying low, not giving anybody anything if people were onto his secret. Like, that's been the whole show, so I don't understand why he would put his family in the spotlight like that. Like, I can understand wanting to make sure there are good people in a place of power who have integrity and who won't be pushed around like puppets and have, you know, other people's interests instead of their own and their own agendas, like blah, blah, blah. I get that. But this storyline just seemed really weird for Jonathan to do it. And I understand, like, they're just trying to give, you know, these characters something to do and give these parents another storyline besides protecting their son and worrying about the farm. I get that. I just don't like the whole senator thing that they did. But it did give Martha something to do towards the second half of the season after Jonathan passed. But so that was the first thing I didn't like. It just didn't make sense to me. It just didn't make sense. It made sense for Lex, but not for Jonathan. Another one I didn't like was the Klana breakup, in terms of took so long to get there. Like, you could see it for 5 or 6 episodes that, you know, they were in that weird place where, are we together? Are we not together? Are they broken up? Or are they not? Like, what's going on? And it just was so, the line was so blurred that it just became annoying. It was like, you guys are on the verge of breaking up. Will you just break up already? Like, it just got, because it kept showing us over and over and over again that they weren't right for each other once Clark got his powers back. And, like, she broke up with him right before his dad died. And I don't blame her for wanting to stay with him after that, because his father had just died. So you feel bad, and you kind of feel like you can't break up with them, even though she kind of already did. But she kind of just stayed with him because he was sad and depressed, and good reason. And, you know, for a friend to still want to be there for your friend, that's fine. But in terms of if you were going to break up with a guy, or if you're going to break up with a girl and you stay with them because they're sad or they're hurting, that is not a good reason to. That's just not. And like, I understand people are going to bash me for this take or whatever, but that is not a good foundation for a relationship. So you guys were already having problems, and staying with somebody just because they're sad is a recipe for disaster. Like, yes, is it hard to do it? Yes. Do you hate seeing people that you really care about and even love hurt? Yes. But she could have been there for him without actually being with him, and I think that would have been much healthier. But like, she literally broke up with him that morning, and then like she stayed with him, and it almost was like ambiguous for the next couple episodes. And I also hated the way they broke him up. Like, you were hypnotized and made out with another girl, and she even knew what was going on, and yet you just decided to let her go and lie about not being in love with her anymore. Like Clark, like, I hated that. I wish it would have been more of a mutual, you know what, this isn't working, we're drifting apart, we're not connecting, we're not on the same page, like, we've been putting this off for far too long. Yes, it hurts and it sucks, but we need to let each other go. Like, that needed to be done, and those conversations suck. But I would have much rather them do it that way than like this weird way where like another character kind of breaks him up for him. Like, gotta come up with a better way. Another thing I didn't like was Lionel, just like this whole creepy coming onto Martha thing. Like, I'm glad that they didn't cross that line. I hope they never cross that line. Like, as entertaining as it is to have Lionel like pining over Martha, it's just weird and kind of creepy and icky, and I just don't like it very much at all. I just really hope they never cross that line, because I just don't like it. Of course, another dislike is, well, I'll do this one last. Another one, so I have two left. One is this Lois doing odd jobs and just finding ways to keep her around. Like, this season, she didn't really seem to have a point. As much as I love her, like, they just had her doing odd jobs. Like, she worked at, the coffee shop, and then somehow she became Jonathan's, campaign manager, which she's never done before. And then she was Martha's chief of staff. Like, these are the most random things that she's doing that she has no experience for, that she has no background in doing, and yet they're just gave it to her. So I feel like they were just trying to find ways to keep Lois in the show when she almost was like just shoved into this season. As much as I love her, it felt like she was just kind of there. A lot of comic relief, a lot of foreshadowing for what's to come. She does have she has some good episodes and stuff. It just seems like what they had her doing was just a way to kind of keep her in the show and had nothing to do with her character. Like, I am so waiting for her to start her journalism, because I think that's going to make it a lot easier for them to have her on the show. But it just seems like, what is she doing? Why are they giving her these jobs? She's not qualified. This seems like a really weird thing to do. And so just the random odd jobs I didn't particularly like. Like, what is her role in the show right now is I don't know. Feels like she's just kind of there. Yeah. And of course, the last one is, of course, I did dislike Jonathan's death. Like, that was heart-wrenching. I hated it. I don't think I need to really go on to much more. He was a great character, a great dad. I love Jonathan. He's one of my favorite characters, and it was just heartbreaking to see everybody in so much pain because of his death. I don't really think I need to go into too much detail why that one sucked, and it was heartbreaking. I think I've gone through so many videos about Jonathan and his death and everything else that we're not going to go into that. So, all right, those were the things I didn't like. Now, the things I did like, it's weird, but it's on the same where I liked Jonathan's death. It's more, I didn't like that he died. I liked what it did for storytelling wise, and I liked what it did in terms of it progressed the story forward. Because it's kind of like, sorry about that, outside. If you can hear, there's a giant truck going by. So his death is like, it's a part of like his origin story. Like in Spider-Man, Uncle Ben needs to die. So I feel like in Superman, Jonathan needs to die. And so this was part of his story of growing up, of taking his father figures, of taking his roots and taking his foundation and taking them away so that he has to go forward. He has to move forward. He has to step out on his own and be his own man and figure out how to be Superman without his father holding his hand. And that it was great for storytelling. It did a lot in terms of character growth, in terms of just having it kind of hang over the entire series was really cool. And it was a necessary evil. And so that's what I did like about it, is that it made him grow up, and it made Clark go through more pain, more hardship, more it made him mature and grow up. So like in the future, when he does come across people who are in pain, who lose people, like he's able to sympathize and he's able to see the good in people because he has been through all this pain. So it's a great storytelling way of progressing the story forward and basically kicking Clark like out of his comfort zone and pushing him forward and over the ledge. I haven't done that yet, obviously, but 100 episodes in, it just makes sense. It just makes sense that they kill off Jonathan. It does. It sucks, but it does. Another thing I liked was the whole idea at the beginning of the season. First of all, I loved the first half of the season was phenomenal. Probably the best Smallville has been, especially with, Clark losing his powers. And the biggest thing is Jor-El bringing him back to life without his consent. And by doing that, he told him that somebody else is going to have to die. And that was a huge burden on Clark. And that was a great thing on the show, where anytime somebody was in danger, he'd be like, oh my gosh, is this person gonna die? Is it this person? Is it this person? You kind of figure who it's gonna be. It's kind of obvious that it was gonna be Jonathan, but TV shows they change, they change characters all the time. So it could have been someone else. It's kind of obvious that it was gonna be Jonathan. That's okay. But that intensity was there, and it was great in that just cloud that was kind of over everything was so good. This first, up through Reckoning, almost every episode was great, even though it did have the storyline of the Senator's storyline, which I didn't like in the middle of it. I just thought that the storytelling was great. The episodes were great. It was just a strong first half. It was great. And I'm saying the second half wasn't strong. It's just like, you could tell like they were like, go, like we're going to do all this stuff. And then like about halfway through, they're like, oh, we're going to have a couple more seasons. So we need to kind of rein it back a little bit and bring Clark back to reality and kind of fall back. And when they did that, I kind of had some weaker episodes kind of towards the second half of the season. But the first half was absolutely great. I remember the first 5 or 6 episodes were fantastic. Oh my God, I was like, this show's on another level. It was absolutely fantastic. And a large part had to do with, I love the episodes when Clark didn't have his powers. And that whole thing, and that brings in something I did like was Klana. Like, am I the biggest fan of Klana? Obviously, I'm not. But I loved them. They were so freaking cute when Clark didn't have his powers, when they could be open and honest, and he was free, and you could see the weight of the world was lifted off his shoulders, and you could see why they had great chemistry. You could see why they love each other, why they're good together, and everything else. But the minute Clark got his powers back, that weight of the world was on his shoulders, and he could just feel the heaviness. Whenever he was with Lana, that heaviness was all over him, and that's why you can tell it's never going to work. And so I thought they did a good job of showing us that Klana's never going to work, even though, like, man, they were adorable in that. But then, like, when they started having problems, I was like, oh, man. Because they were adorable, and they were cute, and, ugh. I did like the fact that they showed at the beginning that how good they are together, how much chemistry they really do have, and how sweet they are. And like, I was rooting for them for a little bit there. I was like, these guys, they're so cute. Like, I'm rooting for them to make it work because everyone's so freaking happy, and Clark is smiling, and the way the world is off his shoulders, and he just feels so much better. And yeah, I did like also like the mystery of Fine. I thought that was a good thing as you go through, the season. It's like, who is he? What is he up to? Why is he doing what he's doing? Is he Kryptonian? Is he not Kryptonian? Who is he? What's going? Like, all of these things, I thought it was really good. And it didn't really come together till the very end of the season. And I thought that was fantastic. The whole idea is bringing forth Zod, which is awesome that they bringing him in. One of the biggest, Superman villains. It's cool that they bring him in. I did like the fact that they introduced the Phantom Zone in the premiere, and they brought it back in the finale. I thought that was pretty awesome. It was a great parallel bookend to the season, which was great, because now Clark is stuck in the Phantom Zone. Yeah, so all in all, like I said, it's a very strong season. I loved it. I guess one thing, I guess I could go back to what I didn't like was how I just now thought it's like, I have notes all written down, but somehow I didn't put this in what I didn't like, was the whole, again, like Lana, and how quickly, like, they broke up, and Lana immediately, like, an episode later, went to Lex, and I was just like, come on, girl, like, what are you doing? No. I hated that. I hated the fact that she moved on so quickly, but I understand why, because he had been so open and honest with her this entire season, and had been grooming her since the beginning to trust him and stuff. But like, and I understand she was hurting and everything, but like, girl, no, you can't do that. You can't go with your ex's ex-best friend and get together with him like a week later. Like, that's ridiculous. So obviously she's not in a healthy place right now, and still has a lot of anger issues towards Clark, that's for sure. All right, so all in all, that's what I thought of the storylines of this season. I thought it was really, like I said, I thought it was really strong. I pretty much liked pretty much everything but the Senator storyline. But a lot happened at the beginning of this season. Well, I guess we'll talk about that a lot more because I have a couple of those in my favorite episodes of this season. But we're going to go to least favorite character to favorite character. I know a lot of you are probably thinking I'm going to say Lana's least favorite, but to be honest, it's kind of Lionel. Just because, like, I loved in the first, 3 seasons how evil he was. And he was just so diabolical, and like what is he up to? And he's so conniving and so dark, and I loved him because I loved to hate him. It was so good. And this isn't John Glover. It's not that John Glover's performance is bad, not at all. It's just now that we have this weird whose side is he on? Almost have a good Lionel. I'm like, I don't know how I feel. I loved evil Lionel. Let's keep him going. And so he just wasn't as compelling anymore. And it was like, all right, I guess he's gonna be on Clark's side now. I liked evil Lionel, to be honest. So my least favorite, because I think he was the least enjoyable he has been through this season. He's so good being evil. I love it. In terms of favorite character, it's a cop-out, but it is Clark. But I think this season it's because he goes through everything in this season. He goes from being, top of the mountain, in love with Lana, experiences sex for the first time, experiences true love for the first time, gets the girl of his dreams, his dad ends up becoming senator, and then all of a sudden it comes crashing, and he tells Lana, like that day, he freaking told Lana the truth. He proposed, she said yes, he was on cloud 9, and he's like, this is it, this is the top of the mountain. And then he goes through the worst of it, where his dad dies, and Lana breaks up with him, and And to add insult to injury, she gets together with your ex-best friend, and oh man, he just goes through every emotion. He goes from the ultimate like mountaintop to the ultimate valley. And I think Tom did such a good job of going through those emotions, of being super happy to grieving to hurt to wanting revenge to every, like, he's been through more emotional turmoil this season than any others, and I think that's why I like him so much, because he's been through so much like that, but he's still the same guy that we all know. And like, he's not going to sacrifice someone's life, he's not going to sacrifice his friends, and he still believes in the good in people. And you can see all the ups and downs that he has, and that's why I love Clark this season, is because he's a flawed person and he doesn't have it all together, and he is going through every emotion you can think of, and I freaking loved him this entire season. It was so good. Do I agree with every decision he's made? No. Obviously, if you saw my other videos, there were things that pissed me off that he did, but in general, as a whole, he is my favorite character. I know, I feel like it's a cop-out to say a show about Superman and Superman's your favorite character, but whatever. But I thought he was my favorite. I didn't like seeing him go through that, but I felt like this was a turning point. Not only was this just a turning point of the show, but it's a turning point of Clark being much more mature, hopefully, being a more mature character instead of how he was, like, you know, when he was like a freshman, sophomore in high school. Like, he's growing up, and I like seeing that development. Okay, so we are at now favorite episodes and least favorite episodes. So least favorite episodes. My third least favorite was Tomb, the one with the girl that was in the wall and she became a ghost. And like, as much as I love Chloe, and like I love that she was like, that we had a Chloe-centric episode, it was weird the way that they went about this. And like, they brought up like, is she crazy? Is she not crazy? And then it felt like an episode of Supernatural, and I don't know. It was kind of a mess. Wasn't that intriguing. It was a weird, like, Clark didn't even really save the day. It's like, it was like a very anticlimactic ending to how that episode ended. It just felt kind of clunky, and I don't know. I wasn't that entertained by it, to be honest. My second to least favorite was Void, the one where Lana like takes drugs to see her parents and people die, like, and then like you have to bring them back to life. Again, I didn't even remember much about that episode, to be honest. I do remember like it was a very anticlimactic, like the bad guy like fell on like a power saw. Like, it was just stupid. Very anticlimactic is another word for it. Like, the only redeeming quality about that episode was you had the great scene between Lex and his mom, and you had the great scene between Clark and Jonathan. Other than that, like, I didn't care. Like, I don't know. Lana as a druggie. Like, I don't know. I didn't really like that one. And of course, my least favorite episode was Thirst, the vampire episode. God, that was not a good episode at all. It's like, the only thing about that episode was it brought Chloe to the Daily Planet, and we got Carrie Fisher. Like, other than that, like, it was a disease that like made people like have the same like symptoms as like a vampire, and Lana ended up becoming like, it was just, I did not like that episode at all. It was stupid, and I understand they were just trying to go for something, but it did not work whatsoever. And they did this weird like voiceover with Chloe to create the story, and it just, the whole episode as a whole didn't work. It was bad. I didn't like it. But we're gonna go to positives, because I got my favorite episodes. My third favorite episode was Hidden, the one where Clark got shot and came back to life, which was awesome. I love the way that I love the bigness of it, and like, that's so much in terms of like, it had like a throwback to the Superman, I think it was 2, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Superman 2, where you had like the missile, that was launched, and like Clark had to jump in order to grab the missile, and he destroyed it, and he saves the day. Big epic thing. It was awesome to see. It was so cool. I was on cloud nine. I was so excited to see it. It was great, and it did bring about also the storyline of Jor-El bringing Clark back to life. And in order to bring him back to life, someone else has to die. I thought that storyline was awesome. I like the way they did bring him back. Like, that was cool. And I'm glad that they didn't have his powers. Like, I'm glad they didn't go in too much further. They could have gone maybe one more episode without his powers, but I'm glad they didn't go too long without his powers. And that was a great episode. It was enjoyable. It was intense. You had the timeline, but you had Clark like getting shot, and you're like, oh my God, like he's dying. Like, what are we gonna do? And it's so good. And then you get to see I remember at the very end of that episode, you get to see he's like, I think I made a terrible mistake, which was a consequence of Arrival, which is my number 2 episode, the premiere. So amazing. You get the aftermath of everything with the second meteor shower. You get Clark finding out that Chloe knows his secret, so now they are like besties. It's great. And we get introduced to the Phantom Zone, which is freaking awesome. We get the spaceship that is now throughout the entire season. It was just great. It set up everything. It was a great episode, and it set up the peril of Clark. It started the chain of events for what we knew would happen. Like, it's like Clark lost his powers, and there are consequences to going against Jor-El, and he found them in spades. So he lost his powers, and in order to get them back, someone has to die. It turned out to be his father. Like, that whole sequence of events was so good. Probably my favorite premiere that we've had was Arrival, and I thought it was a great episode all around. High stakes, so good, and just set up everything. And of course, number 1 has to be Reckoning, right? That has to be. It was the best episode, because you had, ultimate high to ultimate low. You had him telling Lana his secret, proposing, her saying yes, and her getting killed less than 12 hours later. Then he goes back, and his, Jor-El warns him that, consequences have been set in motion. Like, if you go back, like, someone else is gonna die, and he doesn't care. He needs to save Lana, and because of that, his dad dies, and like Lana breaks up with him because he doesn't tell her, and then she ends up going into Lionel's Lex's arms. Like, this whole thing, like this was the pinnacle of the show, and it definitely took a new trajectory, and it was a culmination of everything that has happened between, especially like the first couple seasons, even Jonathan having heart problems, and it all kind of came together in Reckoning. I don't know if it was like the absolute best episode, but it was my favorite because of the stakes, because of the consequences of this episode. This episode changed everything, and I don't know how this is not your number 1 episode, because this changed everything about the show. It changed Clark, it changed the Klana relationship, it changed the Lexana relationship, it changed where Martha was going, where Lois, like, this changed everybody's lives, and it was a great episode. It was heart-wrenching. This is probably the only episode where I really cried, and I mean, you can't really get better than that in terms of like a 100th episode of a show. You can't really do much more than that. So yeah, so those were my least favorite episodes and favorite episodes. In terms of an overall grade, I'm gonna say 9 out of 10. I think it's my favorite season so far. I cannot wait to hop into season 6 and see where everything goes, because everybody's now in peril, and Clark is nowhere to be found in the Phantom Zone, and we're gonna see how he gets out. But Zod is now tormenting the Earth, and everybody is in danger. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I think it's probably my favorite episode, or favorite season. So 9 out of 10 for this favorite season. I think season 3 is probably my second favorite. They're probably 214. I don't know. I'd have to go through like my notes and go through like the episodes and things but I think that's kind of where I'm at in terms of favorite seasons. So thank you if you're here till the very end. Thank you so much for watching this whole thing. I cannot wait to hop into the next season and continue this journey. We're halfway, guys. Oh God, we're only halfway. I cannot wait to continue this series. So if you want to talk more about the different points I made, maybe you disagree with things, maybe you agree with things I've said, just please, please, please be respectful of everybody's opinions. And be not only in my opinion, because this is my channel and this is how I feel about things, you are allowed to have different opinions than me, and that is fine. I would love to discuss things that's respectful, and if you can respect my opinion, I would respect your opinion. And please do that same in the comments with everybody else, please, because we all are here because we freaking love the show. So everybody, like every show, everybody's gonna have different opinions, but it's fun to talk and debate and everything, but as long as we do it in a respectful way. So please, everybody do that. If you want to see my reactions, my full reactions to the first 5 seasons, go onto my Patreon page, or you can hang out right here on YouTube. Just be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you for the 6th season.